Make sure to subscribe to this channel for more videos like this.
The tropics are alive. As we enter into mid-August, we look at the activity really to crank up from the Atlantic to the Pacific. And as you can see, I mean, across the board, there's so much action. So we want to focus in, obviously, on what's closer to home. Our two systems are Invest and then our just area that we're watching that's off the coast of Africa. Where could these two systems go? We actually have modeling that can show us. So first we have our Invest, a little bit closer to home, and then just an area to watch, which probably will turn into an Invest here, sooner than later, I would think. But let's focus in on this right here. That's South America. And then, of course, we have the Caribbean islands, a 50% chance of development. And as it does move west, all right, the question is it going to go south of the islands? Will it go north of the islands? How will it interact with the islands? Because that plays a role, so we'll keep a close eye on that. The other factor we have to look at, the water temperature. 80 degrees or higher is what you really need. Now, notice we have those very warm water temperatures, even up into the 90s as we head up toward Cuba. There's your reference to look at there. So we have the warm water temperatures. You want no shear for development. Now, as we look at our shear, yeah, we get a little bit of shear up here towards Cuba, but it is wide open, warm temperatures and nothing to shear this system as it continues to move west. Our system that's just coming off the coast of Africa, still we're looking into this one, a 60% chance of development. So wouldn't be surprised if they made this an Invest here. That's going to go west. Now, the question is, will that continue towards the Gulf of Mexico or will it turn north? Well, what we need to focus on is what's happening around the environment, because I know we think hurricanes are big, and yes, they are, but what we call synoptic scale systems, high pressure, low pressure fronts, those are much bigger and they actually help steer. So as we look to the north of this, you see we have ridging, big high pressure that's going in a clockwise flow, and that's going to direct both of these systems. And that's why we're saying if you live along the East Coast, if you live in Florida, if you live the Gulf Coast, Texas, you should really be paying attention. Watch the Euro model. Our first system takes it south of Hispaniola and takes that up towards the Gulf of Mexico, and it takes the second system potentially affecting maybe the East Coast, or does it sneak through the Florida Straits? It's still far out, but this is why you got to pay attention. The GFS, there's our first system, there's our second system, a little bit farther south, but again, this is going out to August 22nd. And Jen, it's really next week that these could be impacting us in the U.S., but everyone has got to keep an eye on the tropics this time.
No, we're anticipating a busy season, and there you go. It is beginning. Now, this is truly frightening. Look at this. In the middle of a wildfire, this is a fire-nado. This is a legit tornado. This is no fire world. Look at the image. Look at the video. This is near Lassen County, California. And right now we're going to explain the science behind the scary phenomenon, shed a little light on how they are formed. Now, within a tornado, within the particular case that you just saw, actually, those images of here, this is a particularly hot fire that's burning. The air temperature was hot, so the ground was hot as well. So everything about the atmosphere and the environment, very hot. So you get these even hotter spots within a wildfire that do develop. And what happens there is you get really rapidly rising air. And rapidly rising air is how you get those pyrocumulus clouds to form. But also when the air is rising, you get other air that rushes in to fill that void from the rising air. And sometimes you can get that rotation like we saw. Fire tornadoes happen, but they're not that common, right? They're not that common. And especially one of the size like you just saw. So the rotation can tighten, create a spinning column of fire and smoke, and that's how you get what is we call a fire-nado or a fire tornado. This particular one, there were actually 4 different areas of rotation within the area that we were looking at for that fire tornado. And Tevin, there was a tornado warning for a fire-nado, which doesn't happen very often, Tevin.
Jen, something else that does.
Tornado warning for a fire-nado like this before. And so even getting these types of situations doesn't happen very often. Yes, it happens, but it's a rare event to get a fire-nado like that. It's just hot, right? And that's a big part of the challenge with the fire fight today. The environment is hot. The ground is hot. The fire is burning exceptionally hot. Red flag warnings are up. And by the way, we had thunderstorms yesterday in the Bay Area. We had them last night in Sacramento. just, you know, a situation where if there's not rain, any of the lightning from these thunderstorms could easily spark new fires. We've got 42 active fires right now, and it's going to be hot and mainly dry, actually, as you look ahead to this forecast. So the heat continues. The record heat continues. If you haven't heard, the temperature yesterday in Death Valley, 130 degrees. It needs to be verified, but if it does, it will be one of our top hottest temperatures ever on the globe, on record. And, you know, it may actually be the hottest because some of the older temperatures set back in, you know, the early 1900s here are, there's been some questions about them over the years. So we will see about that. But in the short term, just got to know, we got to worry about this heat. We got a lot of excessive heat warnings. Going to be another hot day in downtown Los Angeles, San Diego, in the cities. We're going to have the heat, but certainly you get away from the city and go inland, it's going to be even hotter. That's where you get up here to the dangerous levels. And we've got the potential record highs again today. Some of the hottest spots actually in Montana, where we go to 101 in Billings today. Steph.
All right, so we're heating up in the west, and we're also heating up when it comes to the tropics. And if you live in Florida, if you live along the Gulf Coast, you need to be paying attention to what I'm about to show you. First, let's talk about the rain into Florida. I know it's been so stinking hot that you're happy to get a little bit of rain coming over you to cool you off here for a bit. Tampa, by the way, we'll see those showers and thunderstorms. In Tampa, we have not had a major hurricane hit us directly since the 1920s. Of course, Charlie took that sharp right-hand turn before it got to Tampa and did tremendous damage all the way across the state. As a matter of fact, I was in Daytona on the east side of Florida, and it was still a Category 1. And it was taking down, you know, lights and everything. So Florida knows that this is a time of year we got to pay attention. Thankfully, this week, it's going to be just your smattering of storms. But as you know, some of these can turn fierce. And we were showing you video earlier about, you know, an afternoon thunderstorm that caused flooding. So, you know, even though it's not a big system, you know, just know that these things could happen. It stays hot. Right around 90 degrees for our highs, lows into the 80s, so you don't really even cool off into the overnight hours. But it's going to be the same green map. Wednesday, Thursday, as we head into Friday. Orlando, I know some of the parks are open here, and so, you know, we actually do have some of the chance for thunderstorms where they might shut down some of those rides for you. And as we work into our Thursday, too, more scattered storms. But, of course, Floridians know that this time of year we really have to pay attention to the tropics. And it's not just Floridians, okay? I'm telling you, along that I-10 corridor, look what we have here. Coming up in 10 minutes, we're going to discuss these systems. Laura and Marco, if there are next name systems, Tevin, but where could they be headed to, and why do we think you should keep a close eye on it? It's all coming up.
All right, starting to approach the peak of hurricane season.
Start here with the pacing of this tropical season, and we've called for an above average season. It's about to get really busy if you haven't thought it's not busy already. Now, what we're looking at right here is where are the tropical waves that could be our next named systems. Here we got one about a couple hundred miles away from the islands. We got another one out here that's come off the coast of Africa, and actually there's a few more lined up over land yet to come over. That'll be the next seedlings for tropical entities potentially in the future. Everything is set and ready to go, and not surprising actually, because we are at that point in the season where it is game time here. This is where we have 84% of the season left to go, and this is when now getting into the peak of the season, the middle of August to the end of September. That's when a lot of the activity normally happens. You look back at where the storm origins have been at this point in the season. It could be anywhere, right? Anywhere is fair game, especially though the main development region, and especially out here coming off the coast of Africa. These tropical waves that have the potential to develop, we know based on history, they have the chance to develop and strengthen and track towards areas of interest in the U.S. So this is why we're really keeping a keen eye, especially right now. Two of interest at the moment. This area to watch off the coast of Africa. This just came in yesterday. And then Invest 97L, a couple of hundred miles away from the islands. Short-term development, probably not. It's moving pretty fast, but it does have a 50% chance of developing within the next 5 days. And we take a look at that zone for development. It's in an area that has very warm sea surface temperatures and really limited shear, maybe a little bit off to the north with the shear, but overall, that's a shear up here, this lighter sort of foggy color. where it's going in the short term does not have any shear, which shear would knock a hurricane off its feet, right? So if there's shear, it's good for cutting back on development. If there's no shear, it is good for the hurricane to grow in size and, potentially there. So that's one thing, it's in a good environment. Then we look at this next wave. Again, no shear, warm water temperatures, so it has the potential to develop. Neither one of these actually show right now in the modeling a developing system, but we know that there's areas of spin, and we know things can change very quickly in the atmosphere. So we're going to follow these two areas of spin based on the modeling. And let's look, this is European model. Let's watch the one closer first, and you can see how that gets over into the Caribbean and then comes up over potentially into the Gulf of Mexico. You see that right there? And then this other one behind it, not too far behind it, also has some potential spin. The GFS actually has even more spin with it. So there definitely are things to watch. And by the way, we know that behind it there's more tropical waves lined up to come on in. So this is an active time frame now, not just you look climatologically. Yes, we know this is a busy time, but we see it in action right here with these tropical waves. So you need to be ready anywhere along the Gulf Coast, even the Southeast. This is the time of year where we know the tropics can change very rapidly.
So past August 20th, that's when we have 85% of major hurricanes, and that is next week. But let's get through this week first, and I want you to focus in on the South Atlanta. We have you at 88 today as we head into tomorrow for National Fajita Day. Who doesn't love fajitas? I mean, I feel like, what's there not to love about a fajita? All right, here's a look as we head into our Wednesday. Again, notice Atlanta at 88, but you see Chicago at 81, a little bit cooler. That cooler air is going to get in to the south. So enjoy it. You what, Jen?
Is you smell like a fajita for days afterwards.
Yeah, you can smell like a fajita for days. All right.